Hello, my name is Bill Haley, and this is for Haley 2024, The Movement's Government Reform Ideas. Now this video is going to be one of the first videos in about a year. About a year ago, I did a whole lot of videos, many dozens of videos, talking about my government reform ideas. I even had one on the U.S. Constitutional Amendment to create the government reform ideas. I've really updated the reforms and the Constitution significantly since then. So this is February of 2021, and over the next couple months, I plan on putting out many dozens of videos dealing with many aspects of this U.S. Constitutional Amendment to create these foundational governmental reforms. So let's go over the reforms and the Constitution, and this is just an overview. I have about I think a 7 or 8 minute video out there. I think about a 23-minute video out there I'm going to be putting out. And this one's going to be targeting 50 to 60 minutes. So let's go over the amendment. This is just an overview. I think the amendment is over 14,000 words and about 600 clauses. So it's a highly significant amendment. It replaces the full Constitution, and it is a full governmental changing the foundations. We still have the executive, legislative, and judicial powers. We significantly go into diversified representation. We split government power into a lot more pieces, and we have a lot more representative accountability, much better representation. Let's just go through it because I'm going to go too far into it. But this is going to be just an overview. Obviously, I can't go into everything right now. But at Haley2024.org, you can find everything easily. Look at the reforms, look at the Constitution, look at every clause. And hopefully, by the time you see this, I'm going to have some other videos up there, or I soon will be, into February, going into March and April of 2021. So, I'm going to read the preamble, and it's very important to understand the preamble. I have time on this one to really read it and understand where we're going with this. We're going into much greater liberty, free enterprise, individual rights. We are really going into a lot of aspects of limiting government. But if you want big government, you can do it within your own group, own governing agencies. We'll go over that. So let's go over this real quick. I'll stop and point out a few things in the preamble as we go a little bit. We, the American people, established with this constitutional amendment the CRA social contract in the form of a CRA structure. So just right there is very important. The American people established. We're going to establish with the amendment, and what we're establishing is a social contract of the CRA structure. The whole thing is a CRA structure, competitive regulatory agency. I'll just say it right now. CRA is competitive regulatory agency, competitive governing agencies, and competitive representative agencies. So that's the base of the full reform. And this is the rules for the land in which we citizens jointly have federal, state, and local governmental ownership sovereignty. We're going to a citizen ownership model of government. In order to establish, this is what everything up until now is what we're going to establish. What are we going to establish? The rule of law. We're going to repel foreign threats. How do we do that as a country? Establish safe havens for the world's oppressed people. Tolerate the freedom of others. Protect individual liberty. Care for substantial unmet needs. Recognize self-ownership. Establish citizen obligations. Permit freedom of contract. Acknowledge individual property ownership. And allow for self, family, and competitive governance in a system of diversified authorities. Every one of those phrases gets realized with real clauses and sections within this constitutional amendment proposed CRA structure. And this does not mean I don't like the current U.S. Constitution, but we're not living under the U.S. Constitution. 80% of the spending and over 90% of the regulations are not constitutional. The welfare system at the federal level is not constitutional, and quite frankly, the welfare system is quite damaging to the poor, and even the state should not be able to do it the way they're doing it. The public school system is significantly not constitutional. It violates the First Amendment significantly. It's socialism, it's oppressive, it violates the freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of religion. It's just not a good system. So the U.S. Constitution, as good as it is, and it has increased America as the best standard of living anybody has ever had in world history. And throughout history and throughout the world. But we can do better. And I take what's good in the Constitution, the separation of powers, the diversified nature of it, the federalism of 50 states, and I build upon the good aspects, but I actually have methods of enforcing limited government. So let's keep on going. So this is not me saying I don't like the U.S. Constitution, but we're just not living under it. Officially, we seem to be, but in reality, we're not even getting close to living under the Constitution. And the state constitutions are not that great to begin with. They give the government way too much power over our lives in too many aspects of our lives. And we're not abiding by currency laws, constitutional currency laws, and the like. Anyway, here are the sections of the Constitution proposed amendment here. We deal with citizenship. I'll go over each one of these separately. Citizenship, general laws, bylaws. Bylaws are going to deal with what executive power, who has executive power, legislative power, and judicial powers, and the separation of those, and a lot of different things with bylaws. You'll see with that. Federal, state, and local, we'll discuss that. Original authority is going to be teaching within this amendment where we have original authority to even have an amendment, to have property rights, to have everything we have. So this is more of a teaching and foundational. This builds the foundations of the amendment of the Constitution. Supermajority, instead of things being done at a 50% vote, we need to jack that up to 70%. That will limit how much government does, and if 40% can reduce down the monopoly government, not within CRAs. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but the monopoly government over everybody. The Parent Sector Board is a very important part of the Constitution here. The sector boards, again, very important. Some sectors will have a lot of authority at the sector board level, and other sectors will have very little. So it's important to know about the 30 sectors. We'll go over that. Competitive regulatory agencies, this is 90% of the Constitution. This is where the governing happens. I choose who's going to govern me, and my neighbor chooses who's going to govern them. We could currently move to a different state and choose our governing agencies by the state of Idaho, the state of Virginia, state of California, and who's going to govern you. But I'm talking about without having to move. Within the same jurisdiction, I get to pick mine, my neighbor gets to pick theirs, competitive governing agencies. We select them, and then we vote within our group for that, for the leadership. We'll go over that. The rating system is highly important. That's going to reduce down how much regulation is needed, especially how much regulations on a monopoly basis at the sector board level. Taxation and fees, we'll discuss that. It's so hard to discuss taxation because the definitional challenges are so great. What is taxation? Is Social Security taxation, or is it saving up money for your retirement? And is that spending? When government gives Social Security benefits, is that spending, or is that just giving back what you have? And it's not. Government's not controlling the money once they give it to you for Social Security, but they are for police or military or roads. So every one of those challenges are so different. So it's important to understand about taxation, and we get into that in this section, in that section. Debt. Almost everything we do, everything government does, is going to go into the free enterprise system. Government has that ownership right now of a lot of stuff, and that's going to help pay down the debt when we sell it into the free enterprise system. How do we deal with that debt? How do we deal with what government currently owns and going into this free enterprise system? I go into that. Pockets of freedom is immigration and foreign policy. We'll discuss that. States partial acceptance per sector. It's a section that we'll quickly go over. It's not an important part of it, but it helped get the whole amendment passed, acceptable to enough states. The separation of responsibilities and authorities, the list of 30 sectors. We'll go over that in a second. So we just went over the citizenship. Okay, we just went over that. Okay, American citizens must sign the CRA social contract to remain an American citizen. Highly important aspect. Every agency, board, organization, legislative branch, judicial branch, executive branch, or group within the CRA structure must set up governing bylaws consistent with the CRA structure. So the bylaws are very important. How each group is going to manage itself. Federal, state, and local. We have to understand that this replaces the federal constitution, state constitution, and this becomes the local constitution. This does not just this does not get rid of state and local governance and make it all one. We still have a federal constitution, state, and local, but this is the constitution for each one. So original authority and supermajority, let's see if we have some slides on that. Original authority rests with the individual person, and because we need to work together to do big things, protect the country and the like, we have to give up some of that responsibility and authority to CRAs and sector boards. So this is going to be, but it originally rests with individual person. And we only give up what we need to have collective action. And only what we need to. It really precisely targets what we need to give up so we can have collective action. And having competitive governance is really important. So original authority is defined in this amendment as where the authority originates and saying who has this highest jurisdiction. Whether it's the sector board, the CRA, the person, the parent sector board, at the federal level, state level, or local level. There's a lot to get into on that. Each sector is going to be different. Every sector is so incredibly different. And I haven't gone over the sectors yet, but we will. 70% supermajority to make things happen at the monopoly sector board level. These representatives goes up there, and only when there's significant externalities do we have can we put power up at the sector board level to govern the whole jurisdiction. And 40% can get rid of those actions at the sector board level. So it significantly reduces down monopolized sector board representative power. There can be, when you join a CRA, you can have it significant power or libertarian very little power. However you want to do it. You get what you pay for. You get the government that you want. Might not be good to have too little, or it might not be too good to have too much. Different sectors are going to be different things. People will pick which one is good for them. The parent sector board, we'll discuss that. I have videos on that. You can look at that. What power that they have. They're mostly going to be that the more constitutionally minded, making sure the whole structure works properly, make sure all the sectors stays within their boundaries. The sector boards, they stay within their boundaries and they handle within their sector, and they make sure all their CRAs are within their jurisdiction and what they're supposed to be doing. Competitive regulatory agencies, again, 90% of this whole amendment is this clause section right here. They govern, they represent, they regulate their members. Parent sector board, they define the parameters and responsibilities and authorities of all the sectors. Highly important job, but they don't regulate, but they say what sector has that regulation or that authority. They define it. It's a very important job there. The sector boards govern all the people within the governed area. I call that monopolized representative control. And they do it only within their jurisdiction. So if they deal with healthcare, they deal only with healthcare. If they deal only with police or education or land and water or family law, whatever the case may be. The CRA sector board, even though it's monopolized government, monopolized representative control over everybody, they still have to work through their CRAs. So that can mitigate a lot of problems because you are being governed. Yes, you have to govern the what's regulated by the sector board. Not too many items there, but you're being governed through your CRA. And it has to be only negative externalities and sometimes significant negative externalities, not minor externalities. We'll deal with that when we get to the rating system. Maybe not even in this video, but I'll have many videos on that. And it's all on my website. Every entity within the governed area must select and become a member of a CRA in all 30 sectors of their local, their state, and their federal CRA structure. You're going to have a lot of memberships, no doubt about it. But there's going to be easy ways. There's going to be companies out there that's going to be able to group them all together or group which ones you want together and govern you through that. That's not going to be hard. It makes it seem like it's overwhelming, but there's methods to make it not that hard. A CRA only governs its members. One of the most important parts of this Constitution is a CRA, competitive governing agency, this is regulatory agency, they only govern their members and only within their jurisdiction. You might want a conservative education school board or a liberal police and a libertarian environmental CRA and a Green Party military. You might want a lot of different things. You don't have to go with all Heritage Foundation grouping or all the Brookings Institute groupings together. You can pick and choose between per sector. All CRAs set their own membership fees. This goes into taxing, but you get taxed through your CRAs. Yes, you're going to be taxed by 30 different entities at the state, at the federal, and the local levels. So it's a lot of taxing and fees. But you're going to have groups that, I'll show you how that can be done. It might be done in a different video, but that can be done easily. You have one organization that's going to organize all that for you, let you vote easily, let you pay all your fees easily. Some fees will be more inclusive where it pays for your education. Other ones, very minor for education and you pay for your own schooling. It can be done in a lot of different ways. The term competitive governing agency means you pick how you want to be governed. So if you want to be governed by a group that supplies all your education or all your police for you, you can do that. Or you can do one that just lightly regulates them and you pick your place or your school or your family law court, however you want to do it. There's a lot to it. Members of a CRA vote on the leadership of the sector board, the parent sector board, of the CRA leadership in all three branches, executive, legislative, and judicial. They bid on, they send up, they vote on the who they're going to send up as representative to the sector board and the parent sector board level. So members vote. Now, you can have your CRA vote for you. You choose the one that you really like. I might like one by Bernie Sanders or Ted Cruz. You might like one that is affiliated with Brookings Institute or the Heritage Foundation or the Mises Institute, or there's a lot of different organizations out there that might group things together. So you're going to have, and you say you control all that. I like your basic philosophy, and if you start doing wrong, I can switch over to another grouping or another CRA. There's a lot of ways to handle it. You don't have to be totally involved. Hopefully with this system, you're not going to be talking about government too much at a high level. You're just going to have organizations handling your police and your education and your military. And military is going to be a little bit different. You'll see how I structure it. All laws, regulations, and bureaucracies and governance occurs within the CRA unless properly assigned to the sector board. The parent sector board, thus the CRAs have original authority. In 25 or the 30 or so of the sectors, CRAs have original authority. Some societal oversight roles of authorizing military forces, authorizing governmental power within the law enforcement and the judicial and the prison system and all that. You will have, that's a law enforcement, that's a societal oversight. Without getting 70% of the vote of representatives of all the people, you don't get the badge of a police officer, of a judge, of a prison guard, of a commander of a military. You don't get the badge. You don't get the governmental authority. Nobody can hold governmental authority unless they get a vote of 70% or of the representatives of the people. And if you start doing bad, 40% can 40% of that representative group of the societal oversight can yank that back. We'll discuss those when we get to it. The rating system is going to be so important. These are executive, legislative, and judicial systems as well. You have rating systems, you have rating agencies, you have parent rating systems. I'm not going to get into that deep right now, but the rating floors are going to be very important. We'll touch on that in a minute. Taxation, we touched on that a minute ago. Debt, how we switch over from the current system to the free enterprise system. Everything has to be sold from the government to the private sector, to the free enterprise system, and that's going to help pay off the debt. And there's going to be other ways to pay off the debt. We discussed that. It's in the Constitution. The purpose of the rating system is, and every RA, rating agency, is to provide quality information, evaluate and rate CRA regulations and the real results. So the rating system is so important. It's going to allow there to be a lot less monopolized regulations across everybody, because the rating system and the rating floors are going to take care of negative externalities before it has to get to the monopolized regulatory agencies. Okay, and a rating system, if they first have to try to take care of negative externalities before it goes to the sector board. Pockets of freedom, it's a way for us to own, Americans to own land in other areas of the world legitimately, buy it, trade, negotiate, whatever we do, and then allow people from oppressed nations to come in, set up society, have free trade, be under the same CRA structure. We're not sitting there taking care of them in the form of giving them food and water and all that stuff. But they'll have jobs, they'll create society, they'll create work, and they'll have free enterprise system, and we'll have free trade with them. There's a lot to get into on that. This is an overview. We won't go too far into that right now. States partial acceptance per sector. This clause, or these clauses, are just to get this amendment passed and allow some states not to go fully into the system, because we want this system passed, this amendment passed, more than we want every state to fully take on this. So it's better for every state to fully take on this, but this is going to allow the leeway for some state legislatures who do not want this full system or want to give up that control right now. Or maybe they want to see how it works in other places before they go to it. Anyway, we'll discuss that a little bit more, especially in different videos. Okay, now we're going to discuss the 30 sectors. When I say the separation of responsibilities and authorities, currently our current government has a president, and he's over the Department of Defense, Department of Education, the Department of Labor, Department of Justice, the prisons. They're in charge. There's even some family law at the federal level, but especially at the local level and the state level. This is going to separate all that. We're going to have like 30 different presidents, 30 different Congresses, 30 different judicial departments, 30 different governors, 30 different state legislatures, 30 different city councils, 30 different mayors, the judicial department of the local and the federal level. But each one of we're going to divide all the government power into 30 and give each one of those presidents, each one of the mayors, each one of the governors, each one of the state legislatures, this power, only a 30th of the power. One education, one labor law, one family law, one prisons, one, you will go over the 30. But top elected representatives per sector. There's no one person that's going to have authority in more than one sector. Well, at least legislative authority or official authority. No one person going to be president over education law and police and family law and insurance and healthcare regulations. It's too much for one person. Our congressmen have to come up with laws dealing with prisons and family law and tax policy and prison policy and military policy, welfare policy. Is too much. Split it all into 30 sectors. And then have about 12 different governing agencies per sector competing to do the best of taking care of that sector's responsibilities. So let's go over it. The charity system, because we get rid of 100% of all government welfare. Through the 5-year transition period, we get rid of all government welfare. All of it. None through the tax code. We just totally get rid of it. We replace it with the mandate that everybody has to give 5% of their income, businesses and the like. Our target is 5% of GDP, about $1 trillion. That is a significant amount of money. There's about 100 million households, so that's about $10,000, maybe even $9,000 per household. But the bottom 10% of the people would get $100,000 each household. The bottom 10% of the households. So it's a lot of money. And if you go to the bottom, let's say 30% of the money, 30%, that gets $30,000 per household. So it's a lot of money. It'd be majorly diversified because it'd be a lot of local charities, state charities. It's not all on a federal level, but altogether, $1 trillion is a lot of money. It's the equivalent of about $9,000 per household, or like I said, about $30,000 for the bottom 30% of the households. So it's a lot of money to deal with. But we separate charity because charities need to be productive. The funding of charities, it's a different responsibility. Charitable distribution associations, then the caseworkers, a fully different set of skills and responsibilities. How that works together, we'll go over in the charities section, and we'll do a separate video. The family law, it's just family law, but that's in this section because family law is always where the first step of helping the poor is with the family. And religion, we never regulate religion. That's there to fight for religious freedom for organizational purposes. The foreign protection system, we split that up. We're going to have a different commander-in-chief than the top diplomat. So the president of the military, top commander-in-chief, is a different person than the person negotiating with different countries. If the person negotiating with different countries, Sector 6 here, fails to do it peacefully, then they have to vote, 70% vote to go to war. Then they can send the commander-in-chief and say, use the military to go over and settle the issue. They're being hostile to our country. We're not going to get into that now, but there is two different groupings there. I mean, two different sectors there with a top leader per sector. And 70% vote to go to war? That's significant. Significant change. We're not going to go to war unless it's really needed. And then the military corporation, there's going to be free enterprise. Now, there's going to be a lot of controls. They're not going to be able to just use their tanks and their jet pilots and their jets and to do whatever they want to do. They're under a lot of regulations. They have to be first authorized by the military authorization agencies. 70% of the representatives have to say, yes, you have authorization to be a tank commander or commander of the battleship. The military capability system, that's the funding mechanism to create a free market military. It's not totally free market, I know it, but it brings a lot of free market benefits into that. So there's a lot to get into. We'll have a full set of videos on just that. Violent crime mitigation system. This is law enforcement, the prisons, the court system. And then the societal oversight role of law enforcement authorization. Nobody's allowed to have a badge in the prison system as a cop or as a judge or as a prosecutor. Those are governmental authorities. Nobody can do that unless they get the approval of 70% of the law enforcement authorization. And only let's say you get it and they start messing up, they start becoming corrupt, 40% can knock somebody out. So they really have to do a good job. There's a lot to get into on that, but free enterprise prisons, free enterprise law enforcement, free enterprise judicial. I have a way of funding all this. Taxes, fees within CRAs. There's some mandates. So the two most important things with law enforcement is, do we have enough money and do we have enough accountability? This system does it so much better than the current system. Better way of getting the correct amount of funding and a lot more accountability from societal oversight, from representative control. People vote on them. Here's 5 more sectors. We're going to have 15 more sectors, 30 in all. Healthcare has 2, financial has 2. The financial banking, man, my goodness, we're going to have a much better monetary policy. Competitive money. We're going to have over about 600 different currencies in the United States. Everybody can pick which one they want to hold, but we're going to have one standard. There's not going to be exchange rates. I have a system to adjust so we don't have exchange rates, and everybody can accept everybody else's currencies easily. It's a good system. So look at the so I created a constitutional amendment to create it. I think it's going to fully do what I want to do. And it's even going to allow government debt to be assets in that. You'll see that. Assets and liabilities and stuff. Insurance sector is going to deal with the full transition of Medicare and Social Security. We're going to go into a free enterprise system on that. There's going to be a transition, responsible transition from Social Security and Medicare into free enterprise, where we give people what they've earned and what they've already done, but we limit it because that's a whole other video. I can go on 30 minutes on that alone, and we will, but on another video. Here's food, education, fully free enterprise. Now you can fully pick a public school CRA that does it just like the public school system does now, or another CRA that does it similar to the public school system or slightly different. Everybody picks their own school board. Now, you can have a school board that says we're only going to charge you $1 for some significant, some minor regulations just for a tad bit of oversight. Or you can say we're going to tax you enough to fund the full school board if you're in that if you choose to that education CRA, and they'll supply you with the full schools. One's going to cost a lot of money. One's going to cost a lot of money in the free enterprise system. There's a lot of ways you can do education. So if you want to stay with the public school system now, they'll keep on taxing you the way they are now, or similar. You can't do it exactly the way they are now, but they'll tax you and they'll give you the benefits. Or you can do a very small tax, I don't know, $15, $20 for the year for very little oversight, and the schools will educate you. You pay for your own children's school or your school. Anyway, full free enterprise education if you want it, but if you want to keep the monopolized, socialized education, you can do that, but through your own CRA. Manufacturing, just the regulations dealing with everything dealing with manufacturing. Human resources and sales are going to be the main taxing one. They're going to be the one that's funding the military. We'll get into that when we go over that, but that's going to be looking for $1 trillion or 5% of GDP to fund the military, fund the military capability system. Identity, personal and business, that sector I'm really excited about. We can do so much better than what we're currently doing with the government system. If we have CRAs, competitive governing agencies over identity, it deals with ownership, citizenship. It deals with a lot of different things. It keeps records and the like. I want to go over that with you on a different video, and look at my webpage just on that alone, on that reform on my webpage. It's really exciting what we can do with the identity sector. Environmental, we want people that's going to really know the environment and the science behind the environment, and really be able to debate the environment and what the best regulation is. We don't need somebody who knows prison policy or family law or military policy or the like to make environmental. We need the environmental CRA. We need those representatives and those people controlling that to be environmental scientists. Conservative or liberal environmental scientists, however you choose. Whatever you think is best. But you're going to make your choice on that representative on your thoughts on the environment. It's really exciting what we can do with that. I think it's going to create a better environment with competitive regulatory agencies, with the rating floors, with the ratings itself. We can do so much better. Work safety and disability, that's going to be a catch-all for a lot of things that you might not see. Hey, I don't see this regulatory agency that's currently in government. I don't see it within one of the 30. It might go into this. It might go into the media and communication. It might go into a couple different ones. But it's a little bit of a catch-all one. But it deals with regulations dealing with work safety and disability. And it's going to be a catch-all for some others. Transportation, we go to a total free enterprise road system. But we still need regulations. We still need a sector board. We still need things to go. Again, we go to, that's going to, I mean, how much money for government to sell their roads to the free enterprise system to pay off a lot of our government debt? That's going to be a big part of it. Media and communication is, again, it's another catch-all. We're not going to regulate media and communication. Obviously, CRAs can, but not too much at the sector board level. We still have the free enterprise, the free speech clause. That's the First Amendment, freedom of speech still applies. I have that into the amendment. Land and water, that's going to be noise ordinances and different regulations on building codes and different things. A lot of it's going to be at the CRA level. Some things are going to have to be at the sector board level. But it's exciting what I can do with that, with nature parks and state parks and federal parks, and we're going to sell all the land the government owns, but we're going to mandate some of it to stay as a natural park. We'll get into that later. Again, I don't have to think everything through. That sector is going to think it through. The people who are expert in that sector are going to put their minds behind it, and people are going to put their vote and select with CRA based off their interest and their opinions on how best to manage land and water. I mean, every lake, every river is going to be privately owned, but there's regulations around that. Within every sector, you're going to have roughly 12 different competitive regulatory agencies. They're going to have executive, legislative, and judicial power. They're government. They're going to be at the federal level, state level, local level. You're going to have about a dozen rating agencies you can select from. Once you select it, then you vote for the leadership within them. So you're going to select one that has similar people in there, similarly with similar opinions. So, and then you go up to the sector board level. There's no government at the sector level right up here that you see right up here. That's not the government. The government is at the full governmental system is at the rating system or the sector board. The parent sector board is a full governmental system with executive, legislative, and judicial, but they're very limited on exactly what they can do by separating sectors apart. Again, you're going to have to look at my website to fully wrap your head around some of this. If you don't see a department here, it will fall into one of the 30. There's a lot of sector. I mean, I think I looked at it. There's 400 and some odd governmental departments. So it's way too many. And it's going to fall into one of the 30. Now, within the 30 sectors, yeah, you can have separation. You can have 10 different departments within the education, or 10 different departments within your military. But every sector decides that themselves. Let's see. Rating floors are going to come in so handy. Instead of having a monopolized regulation that all the CRAs have to deal with, you can just put a rating floor, which means there's a lot of ways to get above and mitigate a certain negative externality. There's a lot of ways to not pollute. You don't have to put a regulation saying that you have to have this type of smoke filter on your smokestack. There's a lot of ways to filter that out. So you might be able to filter out through this filter or another type of filter. But once you regulate that and say you have to have a specific type of filter, it changes a full, the science and the inventions and everything else surrounding that to match that government regulation. There's going to be a lot of different ways to deal with dumping pollutions into the river. There's a lot of ways to handle that. Yes, you don't want to dump pollution into the river and you want to mitigate that, but there's a lot of ways to mitigate that. And once you put regulations on there by a monopoly regulatory board, then all the science and all the regulations and all the businesses go with that one thing, and they can't venture off because you're not allowed to do it legally. But with the rating floor, you're going to be able to find a lot of different ways of doing it. And you just have to stay above that rating floor. And at some point, if that just doesn't work, you're going to have to do a regulatory at the sector board level, monopolize going across all the CRAs, and the CRAs have to uphold those. So, and that is, hold on one second, dropping my chair. Okay, the rating floors must regard a negative externality. You can't just put rating floors on anything. It has to be a negative externality, and a significant negative externality. It can't just be a minor one, because ratings itself are going to help take care of minor negative externalities by giving the consumer at the point of purchase and other places the knowledge of what your environmental ratings are. If you're doing a horrible job with the environment and you're just polluting, people are going to know that just by your rating numbers. And people with low ratings are going to lose business. And people with higher ratings are going to gain business. So what's going to cost at the point of purchase somebody for not having good labor law or good environmental law or their police or their civil liberties, they're not doing good with civil liberties, and their police are abusing people. First of all, that's going to be subtle in a lot of different ways, but let's say it's not subtle in the other ways. The police are abusing people. Well, that's going to go low on, that's going to lower their rating. That's going to be on the point of purchase, and it's going to filter throughout your product's lifespan of the whole supply chain coming up, and you're going to lose business because somebody, when they have a choice between somebody with a product with a rating of 70 or 80, 80 being better than 70, they're going to pick an 80 because that's going to enhance ratings. People with a rating of 70, they're going to lose business. People with 80, they're going to increase business. That's what a rating can do. It gives the consumer all the knowledge of the whole product supply, the whole chain, bringing it up. It's going to give a good, nice number. And it can break it down between environmental or labor law or hey, China's abusing their people and they got this from China and it was particularly bad. Or maybe you're getting it from China and they're doing it in a good way over in China. And you can give that better ratings. There's a lot of ways to do ratings. Ratings is a full nother video I'll go into. We're almost at 50 minutes on this video, so I'm going to try to see if I can wrap this up quicker. A CRA may become socialist. A CRA can be socialist, libertarian, middle of the road, and sometimes, shoot, I'm more conservative. But I might want to be in a socialist CRA on one of the sectors and a libertarian on another one of the sectors and this on another. It depends on the sector and depends on how they're doing. If they're having really good results, maybe. You know, once you become competitive, you lose out of the negative externalities of being socialist to a large degree. So it's like an insurance company. As long as it's competitive, insurance is like like socialism to some degrees, some elements of it. But as long as it's competitive, it can be good. Anyway, so when we say socialist, elements of socialism. Parent sector board of the federal, state, and local governments must take ownership of all government assets. So in the 5-year transition period, we're going to be selling government assets to the free enterprise system and paying off debt. And that's basically what that is right there. Clauses that do a lot. Okay, I don't have time to do all this. I'm already at my limit on my time. But I'm going to go slowly through some of these things. If you want to pause and read them, you can. But the CRA structure consists of our CRA regulatory system side and the rating system side. All these are so important to look at. And I'm going to get into it on another video. But I think I have like 20 more slides just on some of these significant clauses. These are some of the more important clauses within the amendment, and I'm just going to keep on going through it. But the 70% votes are going to be important to go into the monopolized regulatory system side. The judicial authority. Oh, I haven't talked about civil liberties at all. The right to own a firearm, a free speech, freedom of association. I have a full system where I have rights in the rating systems create full civil liberty rating floors. So sector boards cannot drop or cannot infringe. Now this whole system does not allow too much infringements on liberty in the first place, but just in case, this puts a limit on that. So we don't want people infringing the freedom of speech. Now, your CRA that you choose, they might limit you on this or that. But you don't have to choose them. The sector board, across the board regulatory system, regulations, they cannot infringe on civil liberties. Again, I'm going to have a full video just on civil liberties, rating floors, and how that works. Everybody paying the membership for their CRA is going to be highly important. CRAs are going to set their own membership fees. Again, it's really important stuff in this. I'm just going to go through some of this because I'm about out of time from what I wanted to. I want to stay below an hour on this, and I'm at 50 minutes. But to pay off the debt, we have a way of paying off the debt. We'll go through that, but we're going to use sections 24, 25, and 30 to pay off the debt. The people who went through the public school system already, they've already gotten their benefit of education, and they're going to have to continue paying some I call them share loans, but taxes or whatever you want to call it, some money to compensate for where the government already given them a education. So that's going to continue on for a while to help pay down the debt because they've gotten that education. And that's going to help pay down Social Security debt or liabilities because Social Security, you pay into it and then you get the benefit. That's the opposite of education. You get the benefit and then you pay into it the rest of your life. And that's going to offset each other a little bit. I have a full video on that. I already have it out there from a year ago, but when we do the that part of the amendment, I'll go through it again. Again, 5-year transitions, pockets of freedom. I'm just going to go through this. If you want to pause, you can do it. But I've been working on this amendment quite a bit of time, and I think I've gotten a really good set of amendments. I keep on updating it. All the time I'm updating this amendment. I'm finding inconsistencies. I'm finding a little bit of conflicts. And I listen to constitutional scholars all the time, and I'm seeing where they're trying to create greater governmental control. And I'm trying to block them with a certain clause in here to say, no, we need to stay limited government, at least at the sector board level. CRA level, you can do it because you're choosing it. You're selecting it. Here's a really important one. Military members, they have to pledge allegiance to America, to the Constitution, to the head of the diplomats, to the head of the commander-in-chief, to the head of the military authorization leader, and each one of those leaders with distinct sets of authorities. We have a lot of methods to stop things from going out of control. We don't just say free enterprise system and then you see all the problems with the free enterprise system. We don't go there. We give about $1 trillion, 5% of the GDP goes to the Sector 9, which is the military funding. So we have plenty of money for that. Let's see. I'm just going to go through this. I don't have time to go through it. I will go through these slides again on another video. I am out of time on this one now. The judicial branch of the victim sector 11 CRA must hold a criminal trial for violent crime. In the full violent crime mitigation system video, I'm going to really go through who holds the trials, civil liberties. The sector board is going to control who can be in prison awaiting a trial, and how all that works, how the prison system's going to work. We're going to go through that. I'll probably have a separate video just on the prisons, just on the courts. People don't think that we can have free enterprise courts. Sure we can. It's not just, when you say free enterprise, it does not mean anything goes. They have to abide by a certain amount of regulations. They have to be approved. They have to respect civil liberties. There's a lot to it. Free enterprise does not mean a free-for-all. You get to do what you want to do. You can throw anybody you want in prison. No, there's standards. The full representatives of the full system can put a stop to corruption and self-dealing and a lot of different things. Just a lot of controls to not let this go out of control. Everybody must purchase law enforcement contracts. That's just one of them. Okay, I'm just going to go to the bottom of this. And, okay. So, everything you see here can be found on Haley 2024, the movement's website. It's called haley2024.org. Please consider a donation for this campaign. I'm trying to do this all on my own. So I work a full-time job in sales. And I just need to get some money in. Get somebody in here to help me do some social media, proofread, to start pushing this product out there on social media, get interviewed by people about these ideas, about the monetary policy, about how to change welfare to a charity system, how to do free enterprise roads, how to do free enterprise police and the courts, all the controls we put on it. Again, when I say free enterprise, it's not a free-for-all. We have societal oversight, representative controls on everything. We get the free enterprise benefits without some of the problems of people just going crazy thinking, okay, free enterprise means this or that. It doesn't. Anyway, let's end this video and be looking out for videos that's going to be going into each aspect significantly more. I want to do a lot of 20 to 30 minute videos on each aspect, on each sector. So there'll be many dozens of videos going out. Well, until the next video.